Hi guys, welcome back to Living the Gandy Life. Today I wanted to share with you guys and bring you along with me while I plan our very first week of school. Now, we don't start until September. We love summer, we love the warm weather and just being outside. So we're always a little reluctant to get started, but as always, all good things must come to an end and we have to start school. So we are planning to start at the beginning of September. So I just wanted to bring you guys along with me and show you how I plan by pulling all of these different resources together for each of my kids. So the first thing I want to share, obviously, well, before I even get to that, I've showed you this before. I have just one of these in a binder for each kid. And so this is where I just sit down. I'm just planning 1 week at a time. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to fill this out, starting with just putting the month and the year and then the dates for each of the days for that week. So I'll usually just start with that. Also, I've mentioned this as well, I have my planner, so I know what we have going on and how I need to schedule our school around. So I usually just start with that. So here you go. I have September 2020, and then I dated each of my days here. Now, once I have that started, then I just kind of move down the list. The first thing that I have on there is Bible. And so what we are doing for our Bible and our devotional is this sword fighting book. I shared that in our curriculum. And I've started a couple of things. So each week they're learning about a different, like for example, the first one is fighting temptation, when you're tempted to stop learning scriptures, or if you're tempted to lose your self-control. And then on the back of each of them, it has scripture so that when they're tempted not to pray or tempted to complain or argue, they can immediately think of a scripture. And I have the first 10 weeks on a note card so that we can help commit these scripture memory verses to our memory. So I already have those ready to go and they're sitting in the front. But basically with week 1, it's real easy because it's broken up into days. So obviously for our first week, it may not always fit into a perfect week. For example, we're not starting school until a Tuesday. And the Tuesday is actually a co-op day. So reality is that we're for our own homework, our own school study stuff, we won't actually be starting until Wednesday, and we'll be doing it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're gonna have a shortened week, a good, a good starter into our school year with just starting with a short week. So we'll have our weeks necessarily aren't gonna line up maybe Sunday through Saturday. They're gonna kind of go and bridge over maybe a week or two. So, but they're broken down into days. So I'll just simply going to write week 1, day 1, week 2, or week 1, day 2 kind of thing in our planner. So I'm going to do that now. All right, so I have Bible in there. Obviously Bible is going to be across the board the same for all of my kids. But I'm working with my oldest Gabriel right now, and so the next thing after I have on Bible is math. So I'm just going to take a look at his math book and plan out what we're going to cover for the first week. So again, we have our Saxon book, and really as I scroll, I've kind of leafed through the book already, and I know that we're basically just covering one lesson a day. So I'm just going to be able to put lesson 1, lesson 2, what we hope to cover, making sure that there's nothing crazy gonna stick out that might require us to have more than one day. Since he is in Saxon 8-7 and they don't have worksheets for that, he has a notebook that he just does all of his math work in. And so I'll go ahead and get the first day ready. Sometimes, well, not a lot of times, but sometimes he does need more than just one sheet of paper for to show his work. So I used to have right at the top, lesson 1 and the date, and lesson 2 and the date. And we were finding that sometimes he would need to carry over to the next page and it was just kind of messing it up. So we started just writing one day at a time. And then as I grade his work the next day, I'll write his next lesson at the top for the next page. So again, I think I shared this before as well, but we're going to do lesson 1. He's only doing the odds, so odd problems on odd days. And then I go ahead and put the date. He'll show his work here for the problems that he has. Then when he comes to me the next day, we'll grade his work. We'll go over any missed problems, and then I'll set him up just like this, only it'll be lesson 2, evens, and then the date for that one. So that's math. Now it moves us on to our language arts, and we are doing Fix-It Grammar and IEW for him. So I'm just gonna go ahead and write those assignments out for him for the week. The next thing that we have on there is our grammar work, and that just has to do with the grammar work that we do in our guide from Classical Conversations. And since this is just the very beginning, we're just going to be covering and reviewing just 1 week's worth of material. So I have all of that in there. I have our week 1 material in there to review. And honestly, a lot of what this is listening to the songs while we're driving, going to different things that our family is involved in, whether it's to a co-op or to lessons or sports or to the grocery store. We just kind of go on our way, we push play, and we listen to our grammar work as we're driving. So the next thing that we have is history, which again is tying in with our Classical Conversations grammar work. And we are, for history, for week 1, has to do with Columbus. So I've shared this before, but we're going to be reading Pedro's journal as our read aloud. And when I looked at it, I saw that Pedro's journal is only 80 pages long. So, you know, it won't, and if you look at them, well, of course that one doesn't. A lot of the pages have illustrations on them, so it's going to be a pretty easy read for us to get through. So I thought if we just took the 80 pages and divided it by the 4 days, starting with Tuesday to Friday, that we would be able to knock this out as our read aloud. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in there just 20 pages for each day for us to knock this one out. Now, obviously, if we have a day where the kids are really enthralled in the book and they want to go a little bit further, I'm not going to hold myself to this. Again, it's just a plan. So if we want to keep reading, we'll keep reading. If we're having maybe a particularly rough day, because we're starting coming in from summer, maybe we won't get as far as we'd hoped one day, and we'll just make it up another day. And the beauty is if we need to finish our read aloud over the weekend, that's perfectly fine. We're able to do that as well. Now, the next thing that we have on there is science. And as part of science and history, we're kind of doing this loop schedule. So I went ahead and figured that we would probably do science on Thursday based off of the time, like our timeline of the days that we have co-op and the days that we're going to be free. And we are covering, let's see, the 4 types of tissue. So connective, epithelial, muscle, and nerve. And like I shared before, we're doing the human body from the God's design from Answers in Genesis. And if you happen to be in here, there is a perfect lesson that ties directly to it. It's talking about cells, tissues, and organs. And honestly, the challenge words are muscle tissue, nerve tissue, epithelial tissue, and connective tissue. So it ties in perfectly to what we're learning about. But it's only going to be this page, let's see, and this page. So it's short and sweet. They have, I've shared about it before. Let's see. Ooh. They have a little notebook that they each have that's going to be for history and science, since we're kind of doing it on a loop, and I didn't want to waste paper because we wouldn't fill up. If we got one for history and one for science, we wouldn't have filled up either of the notebooks. So we're just going to share one, but I'll probably have them draw the different types of tissue. So I had really good, or cells. So this might be something that they're going to draw in that notebook. It looks like that might be something that they might enjoy, just to kind of elaborate, to expand upon, and to maybe help commit those things to memory. So this is what we're going to do. So I'm going to write page 14 to 16 for our science. Along with our loop schedule, we also have poetry and art. And I shared that we were going to be reading some poems from here. And honestly, my goal is just to maybe pick I don't know, 4 or 5. They're short, they're funny. I think the kids are gonna enjoy them. So we might just pick up and read. It starts on page 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, we might read to page 13. And that might be just all we get through for that day. So I'm gonna write that. Now the other one that we have that's really tying into our history as well is more of like a picture book, but it's a little longer of a picture book, but we're going to fit this one in and try to read it between 2 different days. So we're going to be doing science one day, poetry and art another day, and then we'll try and read this on the other 2 days to break it up as well. So I think that I saw that it was about close to 60 pages, so we're going to be roughly reading about 30 pages each of those 2 days. The next thing that I have on there is geography, which we cover predominantly in our co-op and with some of the classical conversations guide that we have. But sometimes I like my kids to practice a few things when we're at home, and since we're studying the United States, there's this really fun way where you can learn how to blob map and get basically just a general shape of the United States. And so maybe for the first week, maybe 1 or 2 days, I'm just going to give the kids a scrap piece of paper, maybe while I'm reading or something, one of our picture books, that I might have them just do a general outline of the United States. The last thing that I have on my planning sheet is a spot that just says miscellaneous. This is anything extra that we might have going on that might include piano lessons or sports or anything like that. With everything going on, and this is an off week for piano lessons, we actually don't have anything this week, so that stays blank. So essentially, for my oldest, now we are completely planned for our first week. Now, again, this is what I said is true. It's a plan. We may not get to everything. Something might come up. I could have a kid who's sick. That is why I wrote everything in a pencil with an eraser, because if I need to change something up, I can, and it's not going to stress me out. I didn't plan out every single week. I just did one. So now most of this is going to carry over for my other kids, because I didn't want to teach 4 different histories and 4 different sciences and 4 different poetries, or 4 different geographies, everything like that. Majority of what I just went over is actually going to carry over to all of my other kids. I really am going to be focusing on math and language arts and how that changes with each kid. So now I just need to grab the other binders, basically need to put some of this information and transfer it over to theirs, and then just change what is appropriate for them. So I'm going to do that now. So I finished for my second son, and as I mentioned, a lot of it is the same. Our science, our history, our poetry, our art, our geography, our grammar work, all the same. And Bible. So I was only really looking at things that were going to be different for math and language arts. Since he is in Saxon and I've done this program with my oldest son before, I knew that he was just going to be doing 1 lesson per day. So that was easy. And same with the language arts. This is a language arts repeat. We have some Abeka work that we'll be doing. We'll be just starting with lesson 1. So 1 lesson per day. We do some first language lessons for our oral memory work that kind of ties in well, and so we'll just be doing 1 lesson a day as well for that. And then he'll be doing his spelling UC, so he will be doing 3 days of that as well. So now what I need to do is I have these manila folders that I'm going to put in the worksheets for each of those days. I can get rid of Monday and Tuesday because we won't have any work for those days, and just fill in some of the papers that he might need on those days. So I'm going to do that now. So what I did is I grabbed the worksheets that he's going to need for the first week that we're doing school, and I date them at the top, because a lot of them he's only going to be doing 1 side for the day. So actually for his very first day, he just has 2 worksheets. He's doing the front of this one and the front of this one, and then he'll see that the backs of each of them, he's actually going to do the next day. So I date them so that if he gets confused as to what he's supposed to do and his papers get all mixed up, that at least he knows he's only supposed to do the ones that are dated for that day. So I'll go ahead and stuff those in the manila folders, and then he will be set up and ready for his first week as well. All right, 2 down, 2 to go. All right, 3 down, I have 1 left, and honestly, she's my youngest, and so a lot of the extra things, the science, the history, the poetry, those are icing on the cake if she even is willing to sit down and to listen. So I'm not even going to worry about putting those in hers. We're just really going to be focusing on letters and numbers this year, and she'll be involved in Bible as well. But the other things, if she's a willing participant, I will be happy with that, but I'm not ever going to expect her to sit and to listen like I would expect my fifth grader. So I'm not going to worry about putting those things into her binder. We're just going to be focusing on the core things that I expect of her. So last one. And so now all I have left to do are for my 2 youngest to stuff their manila folders as well. All right, so now we have all of the papers, everything ready for them to pull out each day's folder for their work for that day. There you go. I have now successfully planned for an entire week for all 4 of my kiddos. If something changes, I can erase it, I can change it in our planner and update it for the following week as well. I understand that these are plans. I'm not held to these. So if you guys have any questions or you would like me to expand on anything that I've done here today, please let me know and I would be happy to do so. And until next time, guys, have a blessed day.